Michael Ende was born on November 12, 1929, in Germany. The years before the war were years of growth and study for him, saddened in 1937 by the death of a close friend. Important was his meeting with the theater, which enabled Michael to write plays and get a job with a radio company. In 1979, he published The Neverending Story, with which he achieved enormous success. The sudden success brought Michael great notoriety, but it proved too much for the elder, who suffered physically and mentally. In 1982, he signed a contract for the film version of The Neverending Story. He later learned of the changes that production and director wanted to make to the story when it was too late to object. The film was shown in theaters in 1984, despite the brothers' attempts to block it. Michael Ende died on August 28, 1995, at the age of 65. The book The Never-Ending Story is about Bastiano, a motherless child with a father with whom he cannot communicate, who wants to escape another time from school. He decides to take refuge in a bookstore. There he finds a fantastic book, which he steals from the bookseller. The boy then goes to the school attic and begins to read the exciting novel entitled The Never-Ending Story. The novel is about the story of the kingdom of Fantasia and its ruler, the Infanta Empress, threatened by the unstoppable advance of nothing. Young Atreyu called in to help his task with finding a solution to the problem afflicting the Empress and all of Fantasia. He will have to face the various trials and vicissitudes he will find on the way. Atreyu travels through Fantasia and talks to all its inhabitants. The only chance of salvation for the kingdom and its empress is to bring Fantasia, a human being who will give her surveying a new name. So Bastian becomes the protagonist of the story and realizes that he is the only one who can save Fantasia. Bastian decides to pronounce the name he has chosen for the Empress, namely Fiordiluna. The boy is sucked out of the book and catapulted to Fantasia, where the Infanta Empress tasks him with recreating the entire kingdom. For every wish Bastiano makes, he loses a memory related to his life as a human. Eventually, Bastian remembers his own name, and the boy, with the help of his friend Atreyu, gains access to the waters of life, where he immerses himself and so is able to find himself once again in the attic of the school and return home so that he can re-embrace his father. Instead, his task will be completed by his friend Atreyu, and the kingdom of Fantasia will be saved. Between books and their film adaptations, there are always differences involving the physical appearance of the characters, and The Neverending Story is no exception. A major difference is that only the first part of the novel is told in the film. Between the film adaptation and the original novel, there are many differences, which did not make the writer Michael Ende satisfied. For example, the protagonist from a pale plump boy is transformed in the film into a tiny child who does not need glasses. As for Atreyu, in the book he has green skin, while in the film he looks ordinary. Moreover, we first meet him in the Ivory Tower, rather than in his homeland. The Infanta Empress, on the other hand, does not have the characteristic golden eyes or snow-white hair in the 1984 film, which in the book serve to emphasize the contrast between her childlike appearance and the weight of her years. Fokker, on the other hand, in the novel has the appearance of a sharp-tusked lion with a thick mane and pointed ears, while in the film adaptation he has the appearance of a large white dog. Another major difference is that in the film the nothing looks like a storm, while in the book it's literally nothing. When Bastiano takes the book from the bookstore in the movie, he leaves a message saying that he would return it, but in the book he does not. One of the main topics of the Neverending story is the theme of imagination. It is not only the typical human ability to imagine what is not or what could be, but also a real activity of the mind. This power of creation is similar to divine creation, falling within the qualities guaranteed by God to man that make him like himself. Another important theme present in the entire novel is that of desires, which are never vague. In order to leave a place, it's not enough to wish to be somewhere else, but it's necessary to desire another place and to imagine it visually. So it can be said that desires are the stages of an important journey to arrive at one's identity and what one really wants. To the theme of desire is added the theme of memory. Bastian, by dint of making wishes to return home, changes himself and forgets who he was before, thus creating a vicious circle that leads to the loss of the child's will. Not surprisingly, memories and fantasy are closely linked in the novel. One is not possible without the other, and vice versa. Other themes covered in the work are friendship, the will to live, loneliness, courage, and identity.